Welcome to Accelerate OC, the only show focused on the people leading innovation in Orange County. Join our host, Kerry Ransom, in his conversations with the trendsetters, entrepreneurs, investors, and leaders here, because it's time to Accelerate OC.
Good morning. Welcome to Accelerate OC. I'm Kerry Ransom. And thanks always to our engineer, Paul, for making me and my guests sound so good. Today's episode is sponsored by OC4 Ventures, a new venture studio and fund that I'm a part of here, and I'm really excited to start sharing more about here on the show. We have been working to identify some of the most exciting and compelling entrepreneurs here in Orange County and are going to give them a space to come in and build their companies alongside of us. And we're going to provide them capital, we're going to provide them coaching, collisions with great talent, and connect them with this great Orange County community and many of the folks who have come on the show over the time that we've been doing it and will continue to. If you are one of those entrepreneurs or know one, feel free to send them my way or go to OC4V.com. I'm excited to have Lawrence Greaves here today. And before we get to hear his incredible entrepreneurial journey and energy and ideas and wisdom, let me talk to him. I'll tell you a little bit about him and his current company, OPKIX. So Lawrence, as I think about him, he's an entrepreneur through and through, but also an investor. And he's also been a board advisor in a number of roles as well. And prior to being an entrepreneur, he worked in a number of boutique advisory and consulting firms. So I think he comes at it from a really strong foundation as well. He invested in and co-founded OPKIX a few years ago, so in 2016. And he's currently the CEO and on the board today. And I think he'll even probably share a little bit about the camera and the system that they've built as well. They make the smartest, smallest, simplest, and most powerful little cameras and camera accessories. So that's their tagline. And he'll talk about how they were able to go even smaller than the smallest that most of us has probably seen. Prior to that, he co-founded another company in 2008, which was an interesting time in the economy. So maybe we'll talk a little bit about that. And then he went on about 10 years later to sell his 50% share of the company and could have just retired. So we'll probably explore a little bit of that as well. He's really passionate about philanthropy as well as investing in other businesses. So we'll try to cover some of that. So we got a lot to cover here in the next little while here on Accelerate OC today. And he also, through OPKIX, just recently won the prestigious Octane High Tech Award for the best technology innovation in a consumer product. Lawrence, it's great to have you here on Accelerate OC today.
Well, it's great to be here. Thanks so much. I really appreciate this, and especially to OC Talk Radio. You'd mentioned OC4 Ventures, and if there's any good entrepreneurs looking for capital, but I know a couple guys as well that might benefit from that connection, yours truly being one of them. So absolutely. Looking forward to hearing more about that.
Yes, we can definitely talk more. So let's get to the starting line. I teased a little bit about OPKIX, but tell the audience quickly, how did you get started and recognize this opportunity, and what led you guys there?
Yeah, so it was 2016, and I was nearing my last few months selling my last business. I was serving on 7 boards of directors at the time, and a not-for-profit board that we're very, very close to, which helps serve underprivileged women and children. I've dedicated most of my career earnings and life to that since we started making money at 22 years old. So 2016, I was presented with an idea, an opportunity, and it was presented to me as something that can help me divorce from my dependency to my smartphone. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I've got 2 wonderful children. My oldest just had her 8th birthday yesterday, which awesome. I just made it back in time from New York, which is great. But this chemical level dependency that we have on our smartphones just feels like that I was living every moment through my phone. I would go to concerts, events, I'd go to Disneyland with my kids, and I'd be asked them, stop, here, let me take a picture, and thrusting my phone between myself and the kids, and whatever the subject was, I was never really focused on it. So this idea was presented to me, and it was really something that almost took my breath away. The opportunity to be part of something great. And I think that, at least for my small ecosystem that I live in, that's been pretty impactful, I've been involved with a range of different businesses. I've built 2 of my own that I've sold. I've advised hundreds of M&A transactions, and I've sat on boards of directors for multiple private equity sales now over the years. The one thing that was true and consistent was just lightning in a bottle comes every 4 to 6 years, and I mean real lightning. Not just successful businesses, not lower middle market $100 million exits, but I mean real game-changing stuff. And one of the clients at my last company that we'd engaged with very early on, all the way through to the sale to Apple, was a headphone company called Beats. Really cool business, and I got very, very heavily involved there. And it was a great learning lesson for me. I was in my late 20s at the time. My personal company was growing from strength to strength. We're opening offices and winning some of the best clients. And I was always looking for that same type of opportunity when I would think about investing in things. And it wasn't just, is it sexy, is it fun, is there tremendous financial upside? But I'd also look at things from a perspective of, does this impact culture? I remember the last company that I'd sold, I was sitting in Manhattan opening our New York office, and there was a bus that came by me, a double-decker bus, and every kid sitting on that bus, there was one thing consistent. They all had a set of these headphones on, which led to me making a phone call back to my LA office, and yeah, that's a company called Beats. And I said, well, listen, everyone that was 18 and 60 on that bus was wearing them. I want to know all about this. And that's kind of how it started. You get inside those businesses and they all kind of operate the same. But with OPKIX, it was something that looked and felt a lot like that type of an opportunity. So what we are at our essence is the world's smallest wearable video cameras that stream our content to your smartphone or to a personal computing device for you to edit and share across any social platform, WhatsApp. We're agnostic in terms of where you share the video, but the concept being making our cameras small enough that you could actually wear them. So when I say small, they weigh about 11 grams, and size-wise, think of 2 sugar cubes placed side by side. If you look at other wearable cameras on the market that are focused on action sports only, we thought that there was a much broader market than just the times that you're doing action sports. And what about lifestyle? What about concerts? What about going to Disneyland? What about pushing your kids on a swing? Our products have made something pretty game-changing for something that's about the size of 2 sugar cubes placed side by side. And as you can see, I'm wearing them here. It's on my necklace mounts. They're seamlessly magnetized here to baseball hats, to our eyewear accessories. And it's for a fashion-focused generation of people that want to be able to wear something, not look like a goofball like you do with a lot of the other action sports wearable cameras, still get really incredible video quality, and then share it with the world. So that's what we've created. And our company OPKIX is based here in Orange County. We fundraised here in Orange County. We manufacture here in Orange County. So when I'm asked to come on and speak with someone like yourself and the guys at OC Talk Radio, I love this community. I've been here 15 years.
Same as me.
Yeah, I give everything that I've ever earned back to the community, whether it's through charity efforts, hiring, employing, building out infrastructure. But to take an electronics consumer product in this generation, to make it in America, to make it in California, to make it in Orange County, there's no one doing what OPKIX is doing. And for you to give me the platform to let these great listeners right in our backyard hear about us, this is an exciting thing for me to do. So I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. And you're exactly why I designed and started this show, because I feel very privileged as well to have been here for the last 15 years and get to meet and work with people like you who aren't just great Orange County entrepreneurs, they're great global entrepreneurs. And
that's the key here.
We have amazing talent here in our pond. And one of the things that I think we just have to do a better job of is telling these stories and connecting each other and encouraging and supporting each other as a community where the rising tide and the pond can get bigger.
Right, and I think that's the important part as well, because we inherently know that Orange County is probably one of the most beautiful, best qualities of education, some of the most incredible people that we're surrounded with. I think that culturally we're enriching ourselves more and more since I've been here in 15 years. The quality of nightlife, restaurants, entertainment, developments in real estate. I mean, this is the hub. And, I don't have any angst or beef or competition with Silicon Valley, with New York, with other hubs of, innovation. I spend my time traveling to them and celebrating this beautiful part of the world that we live in. And I think, just from an OPKIX perspective, we're launching in 4 countries as we speak right now. So I've used the course of this summer to go and do a very large press event in Tokyo. The same again in London, and I'm very happy to say that in one incredible store at their Selfridges, which is a very large luxury department retail store, I was told that within the first couple of days we sold out. So that's great
that's
from
great.
an entrepreneurial
Yes.
perspective. Launching in Amsterdam and 4 stores here in the US just this week. Everywhere I go, I stand up and I talk about Orange County. And for a lot of people, it's the first time they've heard about it, which blows my mind when I think about what we've got going on here. For me as a CEO and certainly as an entrepreneur, one of my main focuses is not just, building and retaining talent here in Orange County, but attracting talent.
Yes.
And when I look for the skill sets that I require, it kind of comes from a few bulge areas, bulge bracket areas, Silicon Valley, of course, being one, New York being the other one. Austin is something that seems, in terms of innovation, to be growing at leaps and bounds. So they're doing a great job bringing awareness to that community. But we've been winning. I mean, we've been hiring executives from Fortune 100 competitors out of Silicon Valley to move down here. That says a lot about this ecosystem that we're building. And I can tell you on a go-forward basis, I don't plan on slowing down. I plan on speeding up.
Sure.
So watch this space.
That's right. Well, thus the name Accelerate OC, because I totally agree that the time for Orange County to really reinvent and shine is now and greater than it's ever been.
Right.
And there's a great history of innovation here.
Right.
And we just haven't, probably for those of us who are new, there's been a lot of people that have moved in here like us in the last 20 years.
Right.
And to both draw from some of that history, but also look ahead. The diversity of opportunity and people and industry is so profound here that I think that is what gives us the advantage. You're building a technical product, but it's also a consumer brand, a lifestyle brand, and that convergence of those things is better to be done somewhere here than maybe anywhere else.
Right. And look, if you go back through the history of Orange County, you could look at it and say that this is a town that's been built on a couple of things: real estate and lending against real estate assets. But if you think of the cultural impact that we've all had, as part of this community, I look at my board member and initial investor alongside me in OPKIX as the founder of Quicksilver, which is Bob McKnight.
Yes.
And I'm always proud to talk about him just because he's just such an incredible leader. But look at Quicksilver. When I first met with him the day that we were looking at investing in OPKIX, I said, listen, Bob, I remember being 11 years old on a beach in South Africa and begging my parents to buy something called a board short by this company called Quicksilver. And you're that guy, and you've generated $2.1 billion worth of annual apparel sales, in a business that no one had even heard of. This isn't a singular focused ecosystem. Some of the coolest, consumer brands in the world have come out of our backyards, and we should all be proud of it. But again, I'm not a guy being English. It's a country that focuses tremendously on history. I'm a guy that focuses tremendously on present and future. That's why I love being in innovation. So, for me, what I see Orange County now and where I see it in 15 years with my involvement, again, I'm 37 years old. I'm not going anywhere.
Yes.
And it's more about being empowered by other folks here in the OC that look at it and say, we want to invest in change. We want to invest in healthy change. We want to invest in companies that build and grow our own backyard and community, and with things to be proud of.
Yes.
So anyway, that's at least my perspective on where we've come from and where I think we can go.
So good. And conversations like this are what get me really excited to stay here and say, I'm in. I'm all in for the next. I'm not going anywhere either. So let's make Orange County not like anywhere else. Let's make it the world leading innovation center that we know it can be.
Yep.
So let's go under the hood a little bit. So before, I talked about it when I was introducing you, before you became an entrepreneur, you worked for some you'd mentioned some of the M&A advisory and other consulting work that you had done. So what was it that ultimately led you to go, you know what? I got to go do this myself. I have to be an entrepreneur.
So a couple of different things. So I moved here around 22 years old. In London, I met a beautiful young lady from Orange County. We've now been married 15 years and we've got 2 wonderful children. After meeting my second girlfriend, and she's now my wife of this long, you can tell things worked out really well.
Yes.
I'm so great. Thank you. I'm so grateful to have such a wonderful wife and such great kids. I've never really worked for anyone is the quick response to that point. I'm an entrepreneur because I'm inherently unemployable, not because I'm like a Mark Zuckerberg type brilliant.
I know that well.
Yeah, I think I'm just absolutely relentless. That's the quickest and easiest way to describe me, which is difficult in a traditional corporate employment setting. When you've got go-getters, it's very difficult to harness them. So when I first moved here, I did an internship for about 6 months and ended up just kind of understanding a new business, which was going around providing financial leadership and guidance to companies that were going through transactions or turnarounds, or by 2008, complete restructurings. And so that I've been building my own businesses, providing that type of leadership to companies since I moved here in 2005. And I worked out pretty quickly that going about this through a staffing model was very transactional and was providing very low quality yields. So the idea of actually going out and employing these people with top pedigrees from the best business schools and best accounting firm pedigrees, that was my best served model. So, I've been really fortunate. I've hired about 1,000 people or so since I've moved out to the US. For a kid with no college degree that moved out here with $400 to have built that type of employment track record on my own dime. Has been incredible. And again, I've assisted probably around 100 or so, pretty meaningful M&A transactions over a 15-year period. And I've seen expansions in markets, I've seen contractions. And, for me personally, my last company that I built and sold over a 8-9 year period actually launched it about 9 days before Lehman Brothers crashed. And I can tell you stories of sitting there as a 23-year-old and putting hundreds of thousands of my own dollars, which I'd created in a very short period of time since moving to this incredible country, putting that to use and then just watching the markets contract literally overnight. It's one of two things. There's people that just go through very, very tough times, and it will test you and your vigor. And I turned it into, something with hundreds of employees and offices all over the countries, and a tremendous profit center for myself and my co-founder. And it also led me the opportunity as not just building my own firm, but when you're advising other companies, very quickly I'd myself become a commodity where they said, well, look, we'd love to have you as a board member or a shareholder of the company or an advisor or an investor. So that's kind of what led me away from just being in the management consulting business, and then working out pretty quickly that I was a pretty damn good operator myself. So I made the decision in 2016 to go through and sell my last company, which completed the transaction by 2017. I invested in OPKIX as the seed investor alongside Bob McKnight and a couple other very, very notable guys. The guys behind Travis Matthew, the apparel brand, that did a great job building and selling to Callaway. Those guys are also my next door neighbors, great friends of ours, and they're all current investors in OPKIX as well. So again, very community-based vibe. But I'd worked out that, most people that approach me would, I get hit with about 300 business plans a year. Lawrence, you've got to invest in this. It's always the same thing. Bring your checkbook, bring your knowledge, bring your experience, and, work for sweat equity for a decade, and we'll see how things go. Most entrepreneurs that I meet with, quite frankly, have, some level of excitement and they want to get out of a job. But where I really struggle with is the last page of most business plans that will say that, we're the next billion-dollar company. Most of these guys haven't built or sold or been involved in a billion-dollar company. I've been involved with multiple of them, so I know kind of what it looks and feels like. But more importantly, the projection would always say we're the next billion-dollar company, and there'd be some arbitrary calculation of, well, Apple sells 3 trillion iPhones in dollars a year, so take 1% of that and we're rich. And it's just such a layman, it's just an archaic way of trying to approach a valuation calculation. So when I saw the concept behind OPKIX really as a napkin sketch, that was one of the things they didn't say. It was formulaic. There was a projected plan, and I just felt very differently about these guys. So just a 2-minute overview, but I went in to meet with 2 of the guys, and my business partners, Shaheen and Muggs, are just tremendous people. Muggs is tattooed from head to toe. If you saw the 2 of us next to each other, I'm wearing a custom suit and he's wearing, black clothing and, looks very sinister, but is probably one of the most incredible people that I've had the pleasure of meeting with. And if anyone is familiar with one of the local philanthropic organizations with a very risque name that I can't say, but it begins with the F, and it's F Cancer. Muggs is the founder of that charity. I worked out pretty quickly that these guys were not just the sum total of how they looked on the front end. Shaheen was the former party planner for Hugh Hefner in the Playboy Mansion, so there wasn't a celebrity he hadn't met with or a fun experience that he hadn't been through. So I was invited in multiple times to come and meet with these guys. At the time I had retired, my wife and I were building our home here in Orange County on the waterfront, and I was getting fat and happy. I went in to meet with these guys based on multiple people that I truly trust, saying, this is something that you need to stop what you're doing, jump up and run over there. Dusted off my custom suits, pocket squares, ties, polished my shoes. Well, I didn't do it myself, but got over and met with these guys at their wonderful office in Costa Mesa. And Muggs had wetboard shorts on and sand on his feet, and Shaheen was about the same. And I asked the guys, I said, do I have this wrong? I said, am I pitching you here, or are you pitching me to invest in your company? Because the way that we're dressed, this is a little bit upside down. And they've always been honest with who they are since the get-go, but they were looking for someone to come in and help lead from a business perspective. They had great relationships and great networks, but again, building and selling a company is a very, very unique skill set.
Yes.
And I fell in love with it. I'd also met with Bob McKnight at the same time, was kind of enamored with his background and track record and success, and we both made the commitment that we would invest in this company. We both still currently serve on the board of directors, and I get tremendous amounts of leadership and guidance, not just from Bob, but a lot of my investors, which are typically very well-known entrepreneurs here that have built and sold companies that we all love and use frequently. So I mean, what a blessed opportunity for me to have that level of engagement from my investment community. And we're still taking investors as well. So I welcome anyone to come on board and learn more about OPKIX right here in your backyard. But that's kind of how the story went. I left the office, called my wife, and said, hey, what do you think of this idea? Because normally it's call a money manager, call a lawyer, call an attorney, call a guy who does some kind of cursory financial review over projections, tells you that they're completely insane and that I should walk away. I didn't do any of those things. My gut said yes. I called my wife, and that's the most important thing for me. And she said, if you can go to the park, push our kids on a swing, record those memories, and not have your damn phone out, this will change the game for you, for everyone. I went to the bank, took a cashier's check back, and I was in. And that's 3 years ago. We've raised $15 million of capital. We're currently running at a $250 million valuation, and we're launching all over the world. We don't just have great business minds that have invested in the company. It's all private money, but we also have about 65 celebrities, whether it's NFL superstars, singers, musicians, and whatnot, which is really great to help push the brand out there.
Absolutely.
From kind of a social media perspective that we all know is kind of very prolific out there. But it's been a blessed opportunity, and who could work for free as a CEO, as an investor, travel the world over, do 90 hours a week, and still be so happy and enjoy what they do so much? That's not work. This is my life.
Yeah, that's great, and to be able to have I think you have the right value alignment with not only the business but with your life.
Right.
To say, hey, this. I have been a big believer. I mean, there's definitely the school of thought that as an entrepreneur, you have to do it when you're young because you don't have the distraction of a family or these other things. And I've just always looked at it as a marathon.
Right.
That, it's life.
Some people are better conditioned for the
lifestyle.
marathon,
That's
though.
right.
That's the truth.
That's
and
right.
this is something that you should not take lightly. I mean, I think about if there's an entrepreneur or a potential entrepreneur that's listening to this, it is not glamorous.
Absolutely.
It's the trials and tribulations. You almost need to look at how athletes, like world-class athletes, train and condition. I think that business minds are the same, because this is something that would take even a strong person and destroy them. And I give major words of caution to everyone who sees the trappings of success and says, oh, I'd like a nice car, a nice house, or cash in the bank. I mean, the financial upside is logical if you reach that point, but the void between inception and success is broad, it's deep, and it's fraught with issues. So anyhow,
that's right. That's right. But you're doing the smart things. Obviously, you've enjoyed some success, and once you have, you can draw on some of those lessons.
The more I have, the easier it gets, is the truth. So
for sure.
So it puts me in a unique position this go around. But I'm not, independently wealthy by any stretch compared to, some of the guys who've invested in the company that do invest from a very different position. But, with all of that being said, it helps me keep a very humble and honest approach for all of my investors and for all of my employees and for all of our vendors, that you look at things in a very humble and hard-working fashion, and it serves you well.
That's right. It does. I had the great pleasure and uh, opportunity to grow up in a family business. So
Oh,
I
that's
got
great.
to work next to my dad and my grandfather as a kid, and that was what I always learned. It was that humility of, you don't ask anyone to do anything you wouldn't be willing to do yourself,
Right.
and it really, that it is a family. It's a family. Your customers are part of the family. Your people and your employees, your
That summarizes
community.
Orange County to me.
Yes.
That level of engagement and work ethic and graciousness is what makes me think about Orange County. And I'll give you just a snapshot. I'll bully New York for a brief second, but after getting back from the Big Apple here just a few hours ago, it's a place that's built with all different levels of hierarchy, both in business and social etiquette, which I'm very familiar with after being born and raised in the UK. But it feels like a town that's been built on organizational level success, institution. I can tell you over the past 15 years that from the innovation of companies like Broadcom and Ingram Micro, that is one of the biggest companies you've never heard of, based right here in Orange County. I've personally worked with their CEOs and their board of directors and their founders, and they still look and feel the same way. Now, some of them are some of the wealthiest men and women in Orange County's history, but they feel like hardworking, humble individuals. And every time that I sit and meet with an entrepreneur here in Orange County, I feel like there's that same level of, I'm willing to serve you before I ask you to serve me. That summarizes this work ethic, and you can't beat that.
That's right.
You couldn't beat it with a stick, and I love being part of that because you and I are very much the same. I was raised the same way in an entrepreneurial household, and my 8-year-old daughter and my 5-year-old son, I talk to them like they're business partners, because ultimately I'm sure that's what they'll be.
That is fascinating, and I'm sure they don't fully appreciate that yet, but they will. They will, and I think the opportunity to be certainly customers of your product is a great.
Well, they're a good litmus test.
Yes.
I mean, I go home and they say, Dad, we want these in rose gold red, and, we want this, that, and the next thing. And then we go back and I speak to the team, and they go, actually, that would test really well. We went to a product group, and they think that red would be an incredible camera. So that's what we do, is we listen to our kids, and we innovate and do things that they inspire us to do. And with your comment about not fully appreciating things, I'm 37 now. There's things I don't fully appreciate.
Oh, for sure.
So,
That's right.
we're all testament to just living and learning, and I'm nowhere near done with my journey. So
That's right. Well, and it's funny that with I mentioned OC4 Ventures. The reason that I started that is I couldn't have started it 10 years ago.
Right.
But just in what I've been through and experienced in the last 10 years, I'm now at a point where I can serve more entrepreneurs in parallel than one at a time.
Well,
And
it seems
I
like a
think
good
that's what's
mousetrap
exciting.
for you as well. And I think that because not just you've grown personally in 10 years, but the ecosystem here has grown in
Yes.
10 years. And the award that you were kind enough to mention that our company won for the Consumer Innovation of the Year, I looked around a room at the Balboa Bay Club with 400 heads and listened to what everyone had innovated. So much so that when they said that we'd won the award, I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't stand up. I didn't digest it. And there wasn't some unintentional humility there, I can assure you, just based on the way that I'm a fan of our own brand. I was delighted to get on stage and thank everyone. But it blew my mind to think about what Orange County's putting out. And one of the things that I do as an entrepreneur is work tirelessly. One of the things that I do poorly is network and get out and listen to what other people do. I'm so grateful that you guys take the time to do this. And I don't know if the people that are listening to this even truly appreciate what wave of innovation we're going through here. And, just purely from like a family wealth perspective, I would tell people listening in as well to really reconsider how you allocate your portfolio assets going forward, to reinvest in your own community.
That's right.
Because you're going to go through a period of time that we all know where there's going to be growth and compression through the global stock markets, but this innovation ecosystem that we're building here is it's insane. It's like nothing I've seen, and I can assure you, I've been to all 4 corners of the world in the last 12 months. I've done speaking events, I've engaged with engineers, I've done charitable work. I mean, I've crossed the gamut and the spectrum of all different levels of human emotion engagement. And I still rush back here with just a childlike excitement about
Yes.
what we're doing. So I think everyone else should feel the same way.
That's awesome, and I certainly appreciate the perspective. And I think that's the other amazing thing to me about folks like you here is we have world perspective.
Sure.
And you could live anywhere.
And I've lived in 3 countries.
But you choose to do it here and build it here. And, I look at a key part of my role, because we all have to find our roles here, is to be a voice and an advocate for Orange County that we just haven't historically had. People, we have people like you who have attracted world-class investors from all over the world to invest here, but they're not necessarily appreciating Orange County. They're appreciating you.
Make them appreciate Orange County.
I love that. I love that.
But there's almost a counterintuitive response to that. That is, yes, we've done great. We've pulled investment in from celebrities that are based in London and Brazil and Australia. Mm-hmm. Yes, we're well networked and we're grateful and fortunate to be connected. We've got to do something differently about the investment thesis and cycle here inside of Orange County, because the investment dollars that we've pulled in have been from outside of this. When you have investment dollars from the outside, the growth and success, those strings are still attached and they start pulling you outside. And again, it's not a word of caution. It's just a polite reminder to people that do look at ways in which to create their own wealth. Do it in your backyard. It's more controllable. It's something that you can engage with in a more realistic and thorough fashion. And all the growth metrics are right there, whether it's my company or a whole host of others that were sitting in that Octane Awards room. It is some incredible growth and success and financial returns across the board. We just need to drive them here in Orange County more than from outside of Orange County.
Yes. Well, Paul, I may have found the new host for the Accelerate OC show here with Lawrence. So if I ever need a fill-in, I know who to call. This is amazing. So
you keep going. You're born to do this, and you've got a great way about you. And there's not a chance that I could do what you do. So.
It's awesome. I already am formulating the next live event that I'm going to put together and have you on stage to talk to. The people here who need to hear it. So it's a growing group. So it's fantastic. But
thank you for that. Thank you.
So unfortunately,
and thank you, Paul, as well.
So unfortunately, we've got the time sign here from Paul. But before we go, one of the things that I always ask guests, and I wanted to, maybe I'll do a 2-for-1 here with you, is I wanted to ask you, one of the key mistakes that you've learned from early on that you aren't going to repeat this time, because I think that's always a good one. And then the other would be a key lesson or piece of advice you'd love to share with the audience, many of whom are entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs, because I've argued for a long time there is a lot of latent entrepreneurship here, people that are comfortably in some of these companies here, but they don't see the community ready to surround them with love and support, and so they stay in what they're doing. So what's a key lesson or piece of advice you'd have for those folks?
So I'll just cautiously say, for a guy at my age to offer anyone advice in a vacuum seems a little risky, because there's probably far greater people than me listening into this. Sure. So I appreciate them taking the time to do that. But I would say be humble or get humbled. Mm-hmm. The world has a way of taking us all when we think we know the answer, whether we exhibit signs of our own temporary success. It's not it's not permanent.
Absolutely.
So have a slightly longer term view of who you are, and you'll get a much better reception. And I'll quote one of my investors and one of my closest friends. He's built and still currently owns the second biggest home builder in LA County's history, behind KB Home, a privately held company, and one of my dearest friends. And he and I share a quote, and we, until this week, have called each other late in the evening and spoken about just major challenges that we both go through. And the quote is, never, ever, ever give up. You don't know what's around the next corner, and it's going to be what you've put out there is what you'll find. So just don't stop. It doesn't matter how rough things are or how tough it's going to be. Be a fighter. Keep fighting. Kick harder. Punch harder. Pull in more people. Just never, ever, ever give up.
That's a great one. Well, Lawrence, thank you so much for opening up and being you here on Accelerate OC, sharing the OPKIX story, your personal story, and your passion for this great community that we're both in. And congrats on the success that you're having. I'm really excited to see the award and the progress and what's ahead, and look forward to OPKIX being that global multi-billion-dollar company that leaves a huge impact on the world and society, as you're sharing, it will and is, and also on Orange County. This is a great opportunity for our community to have another really strong entrepreneur, really strong leader, and a really strong innovative company right here in our backyard. Thanks for doing your part to accelerate OC.
My pleasure. Thank you.
You've just listened to Accelerate OC. Join our live recordings every Tuesday morning at accelerateoc.com or listen, like, and share anytime from your favorite podcast spot. Let's accelerate OC together.
This is CBS News on the Hour.
I'm Steve Kathan. President Trump says he's not concerned about the testimony so far in the House impeachment inquiry, and in remarks says he